Want to impress at these parties? Well, I have 3 ideas for you with cookies. 3 cookie desserts that are perfect for sharing. Starting with this creamy dessert from Grandma's recipe, which turns out amazing. We start with the cream, for which we put 2 large eggs size L in a saucepan. And here, we're also going to add a good splash of vanilla essence, extract, or flavoring. Also, we're going to add sugar, 200 grams, and a little more, 220 grams. That's about a cup, and 2 tablespoons. Mix very well, really well, until you get this kind of paste with a light yellow color. You add 50 grams. We take 1/3 of a cup of cornstarch, also called cornstarch or corn flour, and start stirring. That's it. We're gonna stir it until it's completely mixed in. Don't worry, that happens pretty quickly. Once you have that creamy mixture, you add the magic of today's recipe, the yogurt. If it's Greek style, even better. In any case, it should be plain and unsweetened, without any sweeteners. Once you add it, stir again. You'll see how it blends in again very quickly. And now that we have this fantastic cream, looking this amazing, we're gonna go cook it. I'm gonna give it the final stirs here now, instead of using the whisk, with a spatula to make sure I also go along the bottom and the sides. And like I said, let's cook. Here, I put it on the stove at about medium heat and keep stirring it until it starts to heat up and thicken. So, as soon as this starts to get warm, it begins to thicken a little. See here? Well, just keep stirring until it's really creamy. Look at how I have it right now. That's enough. Notice how it takes time to fall off? That's what we want. If you end up with too many lumps, you can use a whisk quickly, and they'll disappear. And at this point, we add the butter, about 1/3 of a toast and a cup. Just right. In the end, remember once the cream is done, just keep stirring. And with the heat, it will dissolve and blend perfectly. In just a moment. Look how easy and tasty we're making things today. Remember that you can always give your personal touch to this cream by adding, for example, some orange zest or a splash of liqueur. And if you want to add more personal touches with the cookie we're about to use, you can also try using cinnamon ones, for example. Do it your way, and you'll enjoy it even more. This next step is optional, but I recommend it. I add a cup of milk, about 200 milliliters, and 2 teaspoons of pure, unsweetened cocoa powder. Remember, both the cookies and cream will be sweet, so the contrast will work perfectly for us. Here, I have the mold I'm going to use. In my case, it's 20 by 20 centimeters. If you want to use a round one, then with one that's 22 or 23 centimeters, it'll be just as tall. If you have steel paper, it's ready, and it's ready. It's already ready, and it's ready. And plastic. Here's our plastic. And here, practitioner. From here, it comes to tighten. Plastic. Like this. Then I can cut them one by one, and it looks like a cream sandwich. It's wonderful. Once we have the whole base covered with the cookies, we're gonna pour that cream we just prepared on top. Look how creamy it is. This can only be either tasty or super tasty. Use a spatula to help yourself. I know some of you also call it the scraper or the miser. And use it as well to smooth out the cream a bit. Try to make the layer about the same thickness all over. And it's very important that all that cream reaches the corners. So I'm gonna do that now. Look, just by moving it, kind of giving it that typical shake, it starts to spread out on its own. And that way, you can get it into all the corners. And it'll turn out nice, easy, and with little effort, which is never a bad thing for us. Once we've done that, a little bit of work to smooth out the cream, we're going to add another layer of those wonderful soaked cookies. Let me remind you that I made it with cocoa and coffee, so if there are no kids at home, it also turns out perfect. And since you can do it with liquor or whatever you want, here you just have to enjoy. But I'm telling you, with pure cocoa, they turn out fantastic. Finally, we finished with this layer down here, and that's it. Let it cool a bit more on a rack, just a few minutes. And once everything is cooled down a bit, you can go ahead and put it in the fridge to chill, because this dessert tastes way better when it's cold. So, into the fridge or refrigerator. I recommend at least 4 hours, although you already know that these desserts, when made a day in advance, turn out amazing, right? Look, actually, that's what happened to me. I prepared it last night, and here, I have it ready. It only falls because I'm so smart that I want to take it out with just one hand. So, out it goes. Well, we've succeeded. It didn't fall. And now to unmold it. I'm going to remove the side of this mold, and also the acetate paper, which, as I mentioned, is sold in stationery stores in Deutsches Institut for Normung A4 or letter format. After cutting the strips, you're done. You can wash and reuse it many times. A fantastic investment. And now, let's decorate. Of course, add a touch of charm with a little powdered sugar through a strainer. Look how professional. What a presentation. What shine. What everything. A cake, pie, tart, or call it whatever you want. It looks fantastic, and it's super, super good. Look how creamy it is and how the spoon falls. What a slice. What a look. What a delight. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. But stay. There are still more surprises. For example, this creamy one is easy to make and doesn't need an oven. The first thing we do is put the butter in a large saucepan. We put it on the heat, on medium heat, and we're gonna stir it until the butter becomes completely liquid. When it's like that, you add the flour all at once, just like that. And what you'll do is keep stirring it like this without stopping until it's well mixed. You'll notice they're kind of like coarse crumbs with a certain color. Uniform. What do you see? You add the milk. Directly, there it goes for us. All of it in, the whole liter. Once you have the liter of milk, you add the vanilla. It can be vanilla essence, extract, or flavoring. They all give a similar result. And then you stir it around. We're gonna keep stirring and stirring so everything mixes together and starts to form a kind of cream. When the lumps are small, we add the sugar. In it goes, and everything will keep heating up. There will come a moment when everything is warm and a kind of cream starts to form. At first, it seems like nothing is happening, but suddenly it heats up and the texture changes really fast, so you have to keep stirring. And when you see that you have a texture like the one you see on the screen, then it's ready. You'll notice it's creamy, super creamy, but if there are a few lumps, don't worry. That's normal. And we're going to fix that when we take it off the heat, which I think will be right now. Take it off. Now what we're gonna do is blend it. If you see lumps in the cream, it doesn't matter. We're gonna blend it, as you can see. Blender. And just like that, it comes out perfectly smooth, and it's done in no time. It will be a pretty thick cream. All right, now we take a mold. In my case, it's pretty tall, about 10 cm, but 20 by 20 cm wide. We cover it with these cookies. I call them sponge fingers, but elsewhere, they're known as lady fingers or vanilla biscuits. Well, and if you don't have this type of cookie, that's okay. You can cover it with any cookie that has a bit of substance. That's a bit spongy. You cover the whole base, including the corners, with some pieces, and then you pour the cream on top. Now it will be about half of the amount, and since it's a very thick cream, you'll have to add it carefully and then spread it out. Gently. How are you seeing these cookies today? You don't have to dip them, but you can use milk, coffee, chocolate milk, or anything you like, and they would get even softer. But it's not necessary. When refrigerated, it absorbs moisture and becomes soft yet smooth. Since the cream is very dense, the combination is a winner. And now that you have smoothed out that layer of cream, do you see that I'm adding a second layer? Of these cookies, lady fingers, sponge cakes, or whatever you call them. Or, as I said, any other cookie that has a bit of structure and is spongy. I also want to remind you that this is a great time to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell while I continue assembling. Now, we put the rest of the cream on top and finally smooth it out with the back of a spoon or with a spatula, like I'm doing. Then, we're going to prepare a chocolate topping. It's very easy. We take the cream, heavy cream, or whipping cream, and we're going to put it in the microwave or in a saucepan. To heat it up, we want it to be nice and hot, but not to the point of boiling. We give it a couple of stirs so the temperature is completely even, and then we pour the chocolate in. If you use chopped chocolate, no problem. If you use it from a regular bar, you'll need to chop it beforehand. Make sure it's in small pieces, and then, thanks to the heat from this cream, heavy cream, whipping cream, chantilly, or whatever you call it, you just stir it a little, and that heat will make the chocolate melt. So easy, easy. It will take a couple of minutes to start thickening. At first it seems it won't melt, but gradually it does. The chocolate color starts winning the battle, and it turns into a smooth, shiny chocolate cream that looks amazing. What we'll do is, once it's completely liquid and without any lumps, gently pour it over the cream. From this dessert, there it is today. We adjust it so it reaches every corner of the tray, and our dessert is ready. We're gonna put it in the fridge or refrigerator, and that's it. 3 hours is enough. Although this is the kind of dessert that, if you make it a day in advance, it's much better because the flavors come together and the little sponge cakes inside absorb a bit of moisture, so they end up with a soft texture but still hold their shape. So, for me, they're perfect. After that time, all that's left is to take the dessert, take it out, and most importantly, enjoy it. I'm gonna cut it with a little knife, and you'll see how easy and nice it looks. We're gonna make 9 pieces, but big ones, really big ones. All right, here goes the first one. In a jiffy, what I do is cut it with a knife like this. First into 3 strips, which I'm gonna cross like this, so you can see it clearly. That way you make 9 very large servings, and they're going to look spectacular. In fact, I'm gonna take my time and decorate one on the plate, as if we were in a restaurant. You know, those fancy ones. The first thing I do is take out a portion and put it on a small plate. I put a little bit of jam, syrup, or honey on top, and some pieces of walnut. And just look at how amazing it looks. Look, so soft, so creamy. What a dessert. I'm sure more than one person wishes they were the owner of that spoon. Look at the dessert we've made. Without using eggs or an oven, made very easily and quickly, and with a fantastic finish. Look at that appearance and slice. It's fantastic. I'm sure you want to enjoy a piece. And the last one, for me, is the best. A mold full of cookies and cream, with a chocolate topping that I'm sure will delight the whole family. The first thing I do is put 6 eggs in the pitcher of your mixer or blender. I'm using a pitcher mixer, as you can see here. And what I do is add a package of cookies, whichever ones you like the most. In my case, Maria-type cookies, which are like this, with that sweet touch, which I think will work great. But I'm telling you, you can use whichever you prefer, about 200 grams. Once they're broken up, we soak them well. With what? Well, with milk, a whole liter of milk. You don't even need to measure it. Just take the bottle or the whole carton and pour it in. And that's it. These are the only 3 ingredients we need today. What we're gonna do is simply cover it and turn the machine on, so let's get it going. For at least 1 or 2 minutes so the liquid becomes completely smooth and uniform. What we'll do is open it, check for sweetness, and if it needs it, you can add a little more sugar at this point, but I'll leave that up to your taste. Take a teaspoon and taste it. This step is essential. After you have everything well mixed so that you get a uniform liquid, you have to taste it. Depending on the type of cookie you used and how sweet you like it, you might need to add something to sweeten it a bit, or not. In my case, the Maria-type cookie, it sweetens it enough. But you could add a little sugar or any other sweetener to make it to your personal taste. You just drop it in and mix it. Next, let's discuss the mold. Mine measures 24 cm long by 20 cm. What I do is coat it with liquid caramel. In my case, But this is totally optional. You could also coat it with something else, like for example, syrup or dulce de leche, which some people love. I'll leave that up to your taste, although you can make it without anything. Perfectly fine. If you've coated it, place a utensil at the bottom so that when the stream falls, it doesn't move it, and you get the same effect. And that's right, always, always, always through a strainer, because using the blender creates a lot of little bubbles. And we're going to remove it with the strainer. That little foam stays on top, you remove it, and you'll have a perfect pudding. What we're gonna do now is go to the oven. Let's open it. And look, I have a little tray here. Why? Because I'm gonna put water in it. It's best when it's really hot, but if not, just leave it in the oven to heat up. We have it at 160 grader C, which is about 320 dietokor. And what we'll do is bring it here. Our mold doing what they call a bain-marie. In the oven, there's about 1 to 1.5 fingers of water. At the bottom, we place the mold in the center. We put on the gloves so we can push this inside. Gently, gently, because I don't want to spill all the water out. We cover it and start cooking. It takes quite a while, about 50 minutes to an hour. That depends a bit. When you see that it's nicely browned on top, like you see here, it's ready. You can turn off the oven and take the tray out so it can cool down. Let's go there. Once the mold has cooled down a bit, put it in the fridge or refrigerator for at least 2 hours. But if you want to prepare this dessert a day in advance, that's no problem. It turns out great. This is already ready. I'm going to unmold it, and once again, unmold it and make sure it comes out perfect. I place it on the tray with a good splash of hot water. I leave it here for a couple of minutes so the caramel becomes liquid again, and then unmold it. And look, 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 look. Look at how this looks. As soon as you unmold it, it's a real wonder. Since I'm here to add an extra touch and color contrast, I'll put it on top. Some candied cherries, just to add a touch of color. Look how beautiful. And now, the most important thing, that in desserts, just like in people, is the inside. And now, I'm gonna cut this piece. And look, look, look inside. This one's so easy. Once you try it, you'll want to make it again. Just watch how the spoon breaks it apart. Don't say you don't want a spoonful. One after another, one after another. Look, look, look at the cut. How amazing. What 3 fantastic desserts I've shown you in just a few minutes. I hope you like the ideas. And if you have any dessert that uses cookies and you love it, let me know down below in the comments. That way, we all learn together. I'll say goodbye by reminding you that you can also watch this other video here, and you'll have a great time.